beneath the Russian earth, a servant sprints through a freezing, brick-lined passageway, carrying a covered silver platter. This tunnel was built to isolate the Alexander Palace from the reality of its own maintenance, keeping the noise and the heavy smells of cooking away from the pristine imperial living quarters. The servant would emerge from the dirt, rushing the tray into the dazzling semicircular hall where the imperial family waited. But when the silver lid was lifted, it didn't reveal a complex French masterpiece. Inside sat a rustic bowl of buckwheat porridge and meat dumplings. Tsar Nicholas II commanded the resources of a sixth of the planet, yet he routinely requested the simplest, most basic rations of his poorest subjects. The scale of the Romanov wealth was effectively unmatched. The Tsar controlled a sixth of the planet's surface, and his family wore diamonds the size of bird eggs. Yet he absolutely despised the one delicacy the rest of the world associated with his empire: caviar. The aversion started during a trip across Siberia in 1891. At every train station, locals greeted the young Nicholas with traditional gifts of bread, heavily salted fish, and dark caviar. Consuming massive amounts of cured seafood in the blistering summer heat left him with an agonizing, permanent thirst. From that year forward, caviar was effectively banished from his plate. He remained inside this golden cage, a man who wanted a simple life, bound by an imperial tradition that ensured he remained isolated from his people. The culinary machine he inherited had been building for centuries. In the 1500s, Ivan the Terrible used food as a weapon, forcing diplomats to endure midnight feasts featuring 300 fried peacocks. By the late 1800s, the logistical nightmare had reached a breaking point. Tsar Alexander II eventually mandated that all family meals last exactly 50 minutes. Because the palaces were so vast, servants strapped heavy hot water bottles to the trays, sprinting through freezing corridors just to keep the sauces from congealing before the clock ran out. Nicholas attempted to bypass this excess, yet even his simple tastes were warped by protocol. For instance, plain bread was almost never served to accompany a meal. Instead, soups were paired with intricately stuffed pastries, like the kornik, a dome-shaped pie layering chicken, buckwheat, and mushrooms between pancakes. While the flavors were those of a peasant kitchen, the execution required the bottomless resources of the state. The Tsar did leave one personal mark on Russian gastronomy, the Nikolashka. He would coat a slice of lemon in coffee grounds and sugar, bite into it, and chase it with cognac, a ritual that became a sensation among his officers. These meals were an engineered illusion of simplicity, a facade that mirrored the increasingly unstable political structure of the empire itself. This disconnect shattered in May of 1896. Inside the walls of the Kremlin, the elite gathered for a historic coronation feast, while the masses gathered in the dust outside. The diplomats dined on saddles of wild goat, truffles, and a custom dessert invented for the emperor, Romanov ice cream. The dishes were listed on ornate menu cards designed by the artist Viktor Vasnetsov to glorify the power of the new Tsar. Miles away on Kadinka Field, 500,000 people gathered for a promised celebration of free food, beer, and commemorative mugs. When a rumor rippled through the crowd that food was running out, it triggered a massive stampede. 3,000 people were crushed to death. Persuaded by his advisors to project an image of unfeeling strength, Nicholas attended a lavish ball that very same evening. For many of his subjects, the image of the Tsar dancing while the morgues were overflowing cast a shadow over his reign that he would never truly escape. By the summer of 1918, the empire had collapsed. The French chefs had fled, and the underground tunnels beneath the palaces sat in the dark. Imprisoned in a house in the Ekaterinburg, the wealthiest family in history was surviving on military rations of pearl barley and mushroom pasta. For their entire lives, the Romanovs had been forbidden from stepping foot inside a working kitchen. Facing the end of their world, the Grand Duchesses began to work. They covered their hands in flour, learning from their captors how to knead heavy dough. Watching his daughters bake bread from scratch, Nicholas recorded the moment in his diary. Not bad at all. The Romanovs finally lived the unvarnished life the emperor had secretly craved. They found that simplicity in a basement in Yekaterinburg, weeks before it was taken away forever. In 1902,